Listen up, get ready, I'm not gonna take no more. There's a revolution, a revelation going on in my soul. Buckle up, get ready, we're not gonna sit back.
Citizens of the world, friends, neighbors, family, comrades, wherever you are, whoever you are, wherever you're going, we're really glad that you're joining us for this edition of the Live from the Heartland show. I'm your host, Michael James, and we are recording in the 49th Ward here in Chicago on the 28th of January for the week of January 30th. And today, we're going to have our monthly visit with our seemingly now resident political analyst and commentator, Don Rose. Been around a long time. He's up in his 90s. He's got a lot to say. He sees things pretty clearly. And then we're going to be joined by Euan Hague, who serves as a co-host. He's a friend and neighbor. And he's going to bring on a couple of his friends from his neighborhood, Matt Yanny-Tillar and Matt Heimer, and they're in a band called Resounding Wayves. They're doing a free show this Saturday night, which would be the 31st, over at the Whiskey Girl on Clark Street. And we're going to hear more about their music, etc. I'll also do a little sports report at the end. It'll be kind of political. And with all that said, Hal, our engineer, is on duty, and he's going to give us a short musical break. We're going to come back with Don Rose. Stay tuned here on the left end of your dial, or however you're getting this show, whether it be YouTube, Apple, Spotify. We're going to get rid of Spotify because there's a boycott. And it's on CAN TV and a couple of FM stations, WLUW and Lumpen Radio. Be right back. Thanks.
Burning Pop-Tarts in your mama's toaster. What kind of art should we put on our poster? Who plays bass and which one sings? Does anybody know how to change my strings? Getting our start on the rock and roller coaster. And we're having a real good time with our real bad band. We're saving up for tuners, baby, we can really use a hand. Our parents and our neighbors, they will never understand how it feels to feel real good with a real bad band.
Okay, citizens of the world, it's time for Live from the Heartland for the week of January 30th. And our first guest is our now pretty resident, once a month, political analyst and reporter, Don Rose. Don, we're so glad to have you here again. There's a lot to talk about today on the international front. We've got Trump threatening Iran. We've got Rubio threatening force in Venezuela. Mexico is standing with Cuba, even though there's pressure on them not to deliver oil. Iraq is, talking about interference in their election. But on most of our minds is, and we are kind of a coalition of the horrified, is what's been going on up in Minnesota. Give us a little of your thoughts on that.
Well, it's very clear to anybody that murder has been committed. And I think the most important thing about that, I mean, people should be familiar by now with the assassination of Pretti and the lying that went on about this guy being a terrorist and having a gun, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The continuing protests and the forever newer and newer visual evidence of what went on there finally got to Trump. I think it caused one of two times this, in the last week or so, that he's had to back off. Just as he backed off on violence, taking over Greenland with violence. Now, that's not all over. The next week he could open the whole thing up again. But he's begun to realize that even numerous Republicans are appalled at the killing. It's ironic that Minneapolis should be the site of two killings that went around the world. We had Floyd some years ago, which made a change, and now we have the killing of Pretti and booting Bovino out of Minneapolis and sending him back to the border, to the southern border, which is his normal turf. Now, we don't know yet whether Trump is going to finally get rid of the guy who was really just, as we know, executing what Trump wanted executed. But Trump has had to reconsider. And he's sending in, of all things, as a peacemaker, Homan, who is Tom Homan, who can be just as big a thug, and was probably the taker of a great bribe. But Trump seems to be making nice, at least verbally, with the governor, Tim Walz, and with Fry, the mayor of Minneapolis. And I think that's the most significant thing, is seeing the guy back down, because he realized he was losing, and it prevented him from telling his economic story. Now he's going on the road with his economic story, which is, as we know, half bullshit. But there are things to be said about it. So I'm pleased with that. Now, what's going to actually happen? Is he going to take a lot of troops out of Minneapolis? Are they going to be a little different in their approach to these arrests? The issue, the killing of Pretti was an offshoot of all of the violence and brutality that they were using in their arrests. It's the same thing we saw in Chicago, and we fought them to a draw in Chicago. It's not all over by any means, but I think we have to celebrate the fact that Trump has been forced now twice in less than a month to back off, and I'm pleased with that. But we have yet to see if there are going to be any significant changes in the mode of arrests, or whether Homan will just try to put a little better face on it.
I think we got to also remember that Renee Good was killed too last week. So there's been a couple of really terrible assassinations and executions, however we want to call them, murder up in Minnesota. You mentioned Greg Gavino getting pushed back until Central California. I also saw that maybe he's going to be just retiring. But what the New Republic said was Trump is swapping the pint-sized fascist Bovino for Tom Homan, another fascist. And Bovino is a longtime public servant. He did get some award from Obama, but he also took $50,000 cash from somebody.
Yeah, Homan you're talking about.
Yeah, Homan, I'm sorry. Anyhow, and then we also have a new development with ICE going into Maine. Another mostly Democratic state that Trump has, had his eye on, after in a lot of ways. And Maine is having similar problems.
we'll see how they behave during this particular invasion. It should appall a lot of people. I think even Republicans know that Maine is a very quiet, calm state, and they may be going after Somali there. I gather there's Somalians in Maine, and we just have yet to see any, besides the personnel changes we talked about here, we have yet to see whether the methodology, which is the big issue, whether that methodology changes, whether they're going to be deporting people left and right, whether they're going to be arresting them and a citizen or not. No concern about whether they are totally innocent people, what have you. The mess itself exists and will continue until we see a change. And, there's also, along with this, a lot of calls for Noam's secretary of the so-called Heartland Defense, who is, she may be acting her own desires out. She's been a governor, and she ain't exactly our kind of person. Trump, at the moment, is saying that she's doing a good job. So we'll have to see whether at some point he changes his mind, or she, as somebody suggested, might decide that she has to spend more time with family, or whether he's going to keep her on.
I think that it was Tim Walz said she should go back to South Dakota and get a dog and ride horses. Stay away from dogs, because thank you, my wife, Paige, because she killed her own dog. What do you think about the courts in this situation and in general these days? There seem to have been a few challenges to Trump from the courts, and we'll see if they can hold.
Well, Trump has done very poorly, very, very poorly when it comes to suits against him. He's been doing things which, to most of us, even if we don't have to be lawyers to see that these things he's doing are illegal. All the efforts he's making and his claims against people, he loses, and states keep suing him, states and cities and individuals, and case after case, he's been losing in the courts, even when he's confronted with judges that he himself appointed. Now, the ultimate question, as we know, and there's a couple of big issues coming up, is with the Supreme Court. And the question, for example, on the tariffs. I mean, the Supreme Court can blow up his tariffs. It's pretty much illegal and unconstitutional the way he's imposed these tariffs. And the Supreme Court has the power to say, no, sir, you got to stop here. And there's a good shot that the tariffs will be rejected. He also will be getting a verdict somewhere soon down the line on citizenship birth, which for some damn reason Trump wants to abolish. The courts here seem likely to sustain the cases against him and say that citizen birth obviously is part of the Constitution, and that's it. But ultimately it's going to be there. And the fear farther down the line that many have expressed is whether he will obey the Supreme Court. And the thing is, the Supreme Court, with all its power, has no way of enforcing its verdicts. We've got some horrors down the line waiting there on the domestic front, let alone all the things that are going on internationally.
What's your take, Don, on the possible shutdown coming up this week? Any day now, I guess. We have a number of Republicans kind of backing off of Trump. I mean, Murkowski and Tillis, and certainly Democrats. So do you think there will be a shutdown? Do you think, where are you at on all that?
Well, my feeling is they're going to wind up with a shutdown. I don't know. I would be pleasantly surprised. I'd be overjoyed if they did cut out funding to the Department of Homeland Security. Now, that's the issue. If they can cut the funding out there, you have a whole different vista in front of you. I just tend to doubt that they view themselves in that much trouble as to do it, but it's possible. Should they do that, it'll be a major victory. But my hunch is we're going to have a shutdown, and Lord knows what happens when those start moving along. If I were there, I would certainly vote for the shutdown.
It's too bad you and I aren't there voting. But I think a number of Democrats who kind of gave in last time, including our Senator Durbin, which is kind of not a way I want to remember him. He's been pretty good over the years, but I really think he messed up on a couple votes recently. It'd be great if we were on the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Even though Trump seems to have backed off a little bit on Minnesota, we have his press secretary continuing to attack the governor and the mayor up there in Minnesota. And I'm, so we're getting mixed messages, and we're going to have to see what happens.
Exactly.
One of the things that we've talked about with you for many, many years is upcoming elections. And it's always a little early to figure this out. And we missed big when Trump got elected. We'd all predicted that it wasn't going to happen. But what is your sense of what's going on in the country in terms of some kind of MAGA people who are also Second Amendment rights people being critical of the way they portrayed the recent murder up there, blaming it on him having a gun. So they're speaking out about the right to carry a gun. We have some Republicans and a number of people in both the House and the Senate saying they're not going to run. What's your overall picture on the landscape going into 2026 election?
Well, I think the gun people who differed with him are part of the reasons that he backed down on the murder. He is trying to sue them, and I think that's part of quieting down that aspect of the killing. And like a lot of other people, I think contrary to the killers of good, who may yet come under more fire, there's a strong belief right now that the guys who shot Pretti are going to go to trial eventually and are going to be charged and justice may be done in that particular case when people, at first were fearful that they would just walk away the way the guy who shot Ms. Good. It's a total mess there, but I think we'll see justice there, and the complaints of people who are gun freaks all helped in this particular situation.
One of the things that keeps coming up, too, is the training of these guys, and no accountability, no badge numbers, can't see their faces, all that kind of thing. And Andy Beshear, who was the governor of Kentucky and is possible candidate for the next presidency, he's calling for every federal immigration officer being retrained.
Well, that's a good idea, but I'm not sure it's the training. I think it's I think it's what they think they're doing when they're following what Trump would like to see. The fish rots at the head, and most of them, although they are seemingly thugs and certainly not well trained to the in the way that police officers have to be trained. They don't follow any of the rules, but there are a number of lawsuits there. We have yet to see how they come out. A number of lawsuits affecting whether they can wear masks or whether they should wear badges or whatever kind of identification. So it's, you've got a lot of jurisdictional back and forth there between local government, mayors, and governors, and the rules governing federal agents. It's a very complicated matter, but we may yet see some rulings that say they've got to take off those masks, which is step one.
Well, I've always liked your optimism about some things. So what do you got on the upcoming elections, both the Senate and the House? Any good things? Anything changed since we talked about it last? Any retirements? Any stuff? What do you think?
Well, the big thing that's going on here, of course, is the three-way battle to replace Durbin. Right now, it looks to me, I haven't seen any definitive polling, but it looks to me like the least desirable of the three candidates is going to be way ahead. Krishnamurthy, who is at best the middle of the roader, and much, much too close to Modi in India, taking money from Modi people, having private meetings. I think he said 3 meetings with Modi. Makes me very suspicious of him. Juliana Stratton, the lieutenant governor, is starting to come out. She doesn't have anywhere near the money she's got. I will be voting for Juliana Stratton as of now. The question is, can she or Robin Kelly overcome that big leap in finance and exposure that Krishnamurthy has? He's not going to be tragic, but he is certainly the least desirable.
Yeah, Stratton, I listened to the on public radio. They had a debate this week, and they replayed it. And actually, Stratton seemed strong. She, and so did Kelly. But Stratton, I think, is coming on. And I had no sense of her before hearing her in that debate. And I would imagine she could get some money from the governor.
Well, I think most of her money is going to be coming from the governor and his supporters. The problem is she has just been low visibility. She can take credit publicly for being part of the good things that Pritzker has done, but she doesn't have, a voting record or a public speaking record that the public can recognize yet. She's a very good person. She's spoken very strongly about judicial reform. She served one term or two in the legislature where she was nominated by the party to oust a rogue Democrat, which she did successfully. But her problem is overcoming the absence of any public image of any consequence.
Well, we'll be talking more about politics in the weeks to come, probably up until the next election. And Don, I want to thank you for coming on. I hope you have a good week, and I'll be talking to you soon.
It's always good to be here and share my views.
We're glad to have you. And everybody else, stay tuned here to the Live from the Heartland show. After a short musical break, we're going to come back. I'm going to give a kind of a political sports report briefly, and then we're going to have two fellows, both named Matt, in the band Resounding Wayves, a Rogers Park band that will be playing at the Whiskey Girl Tavern, 6318 North Clark on Saturday night, January 31st. Be right back.
Great big sky, you make me feel so small. I used to be handsome and I used to be tall. Well, great big mountain, you make me feel so weak. You pushed me down and you broke my streak. Well, Yippee-I-A, it's such a beautiful day. Oh, Yippee-I-A, to be put in my place. So, Yippee-I-A in such a beautiful way. Oh, Yippee-I-A, Yippee-I-O. Big old desert, you make me.
Welcome back, all you citizens of the world. It's Live from the Heartland for the week of January 30th. And that music we heard is from the band that we're going to talk to in just a moment called Resounding Wayves. But first, I'm going to bring on our co-host today, Euan Hague, and we're both going to join together and do a little sports report. I look forward most days to watching Pardon the Interruption on cable TV. A couple of guys talk sports, and I was amazed that they have not brought up anything about what's going on in Minnesota, because Halliburton from the Pacers, and they were the champs last year, he spoke out, called it a murder. Steve Kerr from the Warriors spoke out. The Minnesota coach spoke out. And so did Charles Barkley. Today, and that would be the 28th, there was a piece in The Guardian out of Great Britain or England, wherever they call it these days. The article is "Fascism is Here and Now, the U.S. Athletes Pushing Back on Trump's America." And as a longtime athlete and a sports fan, I am so glad when sports figures take a stand. Many of them, are more progressive than some would think, and there are a few that are really terrible. With all that said, I don't have a real keen eye on what's going on in Europe, but I know there's a lot of people questioning coming to the U.S. for the World Cup. So, Euan, what do you got on that?
Yeah, there's a couple of things going on in Europe right now. Firstly, German soccer officials are questioning whether the the German team should travel to the United States for the World Cup. Remember, this World Cup is split between the United States, Canada, and Mexico. So there's people saying we'll go play in Canada and Mexico, but we're nervous about coming to the US and feel, our fans and our team might not be safe there. There's an online petition in the Netherlands saying that fans should not travel to the World Cup. So there's sort of growing questions in Europe about how the United States will treat these international visitors and sort of sending warnings about just travel and so being able to walk through the streets of major cities. There's going to be games in cities like Boston, Los Angeles, New York. So we've seen the Customs and Border Patrol already active in some of these locations. The other thing that's happened, I don't know if you've picked up on it, but the United States suggested that they would take ICE officers with them to Milan for the Winter Olympics to protect the U.S. team in the Winter Olympics, to which the Milanese mayor and other city officials have said no thank you with varying degrees of ferocity, really. And so this idea almost that this view of having these kind of extra, outside the police security forces traveling with the U.S. Olympic team, I think, is another sort of expansion of this way of looking at the world to a global level. So Europe is really, we saw the stuff with Greenland recently. Europe is really feeling that America is unwelcoming and increasingly unwelcome.
And I have a little addendum to this sports report. It does concern the United Center where the Bulls play, but for those longtime listeners of the show, we used to do a reefer report back in the days when it was still illegal in Illinois. But I learned today that the Bulls at the United Center are going to start serving cannabis drinks. Okay, that said, enough of that. We're going to turn to music. Euan, you brought a couple of your pals from the neighborhood. They're going to be playing at Whiskey Girl Tavern on Clark Street. That would be 6318 North Clark, just south of Devon. And that would be this Saturday night, the 31st. So how about you introduce the two Matts who are from the band Resounding Wayves?
Yeah. We should probably say it's no cover and a 7 p.m. start. And,
for all us old geezers who don't have to stay out too late. I love it. I'm coming.
It's a great place to play. I've seen Resounding Wayves there a couple of times, and Matt Yanny-Tillar and Matt Heimer from the band are here. So welcome to Life in the Heartland.
Oh, thanks for having us.
It's tell us a little bit about your band. How long you've been going? Who else is in it? What type of music do you guys play?
Gosh,
this is Matt Yanny-Tillar. I'm the last guy who joined the band, so I think Heimer should take the lead on a little bit of the backstory.
That's fair. The backstory probably starts. I only know this because of I'm embarrassed to say Facebook memories. But back in 2014, I started playing with two of the other current members of the band, Peter Butita and Jim Manzardo. We started playing just occasionally, a song or two at fundraisers and at a couple of events circulating around St. Gertrude's Parish in Edgewater. And, we found that we were enjoying it enough and we're good enough at learning music more quickly than we thought, oh, maybe this could be, maybe we could hold down a half an hour on our own, and then maybe we could hold down an hour on our own, and then maybe we could hold down 2 hours on our own. But I think we really became the band that we are now in 2017 when Matt Yanny-Tillar, who knew a lot of us socially and had played music with Peter before on multiple occasions and in a different band, we sort of expressed a mutual interest in playing with each other. Matt had the advantage of owning a lot of electronic equipment that the rest of us did not own, but more importantly is like a phenomenal musician and a great songwriter, and just he sort of turned us into I think it was the addition of Matt that turned us in from a group of friends who played together once in a while to an actual band, I would say.
Yeah, and Matt, you have a combination of so Matt Yanny-Tillar. I'll do that. I'll give names. Matt Yanny-Tillar, you have a combination in your sets of kind of classic rock from the 60s through to the 2000s and your own stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think what sort of defines the band is the fact that we're all functionally pretty competent, independent singer-songwriters. We all can sing harmony, so we have this ability and this interest in really just kind of building nice 3-part harmonies, 4-part harmonies. And we also each have the capacity to sort of serve as a temporary frontman for the band. So we kind of mix it up. So I don't know how to characterize our music. We think we sort of describe it as like harmony-driven folk, pop, rock, bluegrass, because we can kind of pivot through a variety of different genres. We're all functioning as multi-instrumentalists. I play guitar, electric guitar, bass a lot of the time, mandolin more recently. Other members like Peter Butita will venture off onto a recorder or saxophone, and then come back to guitar, pick up the bass, play percussion.
Mm-hmm.
So
Manzardo plays harmonica.
Yeah, you just kind of never know what you're going to get with us, and I don't see that as a bad thing. I sort of see it as something that sort of keeps our live set sort of interesting and, providing a little bit of something for everybody who might show up and just want to have a good time out in the world, as another opportunity for folks to kind of live in community and be together in optimistic ways. I think our music kind of helps provide that platform.
You mentioned that you had played at St. Gertrude's, which is a church in our community here in the 49th Ward. Where else have you guys played out at?
We loved Uncommon Ground when it was still on Edgewater. Unfortunately, that venue closed, and the Whiskey Girl location actually has sort of become now sort of a new favorite because it's just a great venue. It's got the space. People can kind of socialize, have some cocktails, listen to some great music.
We played at Canines a couple of times. We have played at the Colvin House down on Sheridan, both their outdoor and indoor spaces. We've sort of, since COVID, actually, we've become something of an outdoor party band. There's a group of folks who put together fundraisers up in Skokie for a bunch of various causes there, and we're sort of regulars on their on their porch, for crowds of maybe like 50 to 100. Played a couple other venues like that. We play a couple times each summer at Hardigan Park and at the Summer Outdoor Series at the Edgewater Historical Society, which that's a long-running thing, but we've been doing that from our earliest days, I guess, 2017.
Yeah.
And practice
Saloon, which is a mainstay for music on the north side. We've played down at Northman Cafe on the Riverwalk, which was sort of a pivot off of the Montrose Saloon connections. So yeah, anywhere we can find an audience. We don't overbook ourselves. We get invited to the Edgewater Chamber of Commerce music nights in the summer series that they put on every year. Things like that, things that kind of are generally pretty local to the north side.
So you're on the north side again. You're at Whiskey Girl Tavern on Saturday the 31st at 7 p.m. Matt Heimer, this catalog of songs you have, there'll be some songs in there that people find familiar, and some of the influences for you and the band.
Sure. I mean, we really draw our influences from all over the place. Jim Manzardo is a terrific songwriter who's he is a lifelong Spanish speaker who's done a lot of work. He's done work in Latin America as a missionary and has also been involved in a whole lot of sort of cross-cultural work in Central America. So he brings some Latin influences to the band. Personally, I grew up with a lot of kind of outlaw country, the sort of Willie Nelson, Waylon Jennings sound, and a lot of Beatles. It's Matt and I and the rest of the group often talk about, we talk a lot about running songs, when we want to cover something, we talk about running it through the Resounding Wayves filter. And the Resounding Wayves filter usually involves figuring out, okay, if this song didn't come to us with harmonies, how can we build them? You know, and we've become as a group pretty great at kind of arranging those things on the fly and finding the harmony parts. Peter Butita is really terrific at kind of like fine tuning those for us. So that's been a lot of fun. Beatles are big for me. I'm kind of a fan of like 70s era peak Stevie Wonder. Also listen to a lot of Jason Isbell. I think he's got a great sensibility. He's not so much a harmony driven songwriter, but he has that kind of high, lonesome, more kind of mournful Americana sound that I really appreciate. And but yeah, I mean, stylistically we range, as Matt was saying, we range pretty widely. I would say the fact that our instrumentation is predominantly acoustic means that we tend to, either stick with things that are acoustically rooted to begin with, or we find ways to, again, sort of run a pop song through the acoustic music filter and give it sort of our own spin that way.
Matt and Matthew, what was your first instrument and how old were you when you picked it up, and where was that? Being that we're here with a geographer, we need to know the location.
Oh, gosh. Well, I grew up in Northern California. My first instrument was a very failed burst of piano lessons when I was about 7. But my first real instrument was a really beat up hollow body electric guitar that a friend of mine bought for me kind of on a dare at a garage sale when we were 12. He really wanted to have a band, and so he needed friends of his to play other instruments in that band. So he spent $5 to buy me this guitar and said, okay, you're in a band with me now. And that was in San Francisco in the early 80s. And actually, that's the experience that the song Real Bad Band is kind of drawn from, is trying to figure out how to learn to play music with those other scruffy junior high and high school kids when none of us knew anything.
I can pin it down pretty clearly. It was in the basement bedroom of my parents' house that I shared with my 2 brothers. And my oldest brother, who's 7 years my senior, was taking guitar lessons and would practice in our bedroom, just painstakingly learning songs note by note in a very labored and, oh my God, frustrating and repetitive way. And I got to a point where I was like, oh my God, just give me the guitar. I think I could probably play it faster and better than that. And ended up kind of just picking up his guitar and finding my way into, basic chords and bluegrass riffs and that kind of thing. Ended up taking lessons from the same guy my brother was taking lessons from, and gave that a few months before I realized I didn't really want to get into all the music theory. I had the capacity to kind of learn songs by ear, and so I left the formal lessons process and just started playing on my own. And this would have been for me probably around freshman year of high school. I then looped in with some other friends from high school. We formed a little band, and then the rest is sort of proverbial history. We played Living in the Past by Jethro Tull at a school event, and it was, I would say, a brilliant success. And we went on from there to...
There's nothing that says brilliant success like a cover of Jethro Tull, I think.
To a bunch of sophomore high schoolers rocking out some Jethro Tull.
Yeah.
Who played flute, Matt? Other Matt?
A friend of mine, Joe Lampe, who still actually makes music up in the Madison area. He was
nice. So, in addition to kind of drawing on this back catalog, you're writing your own songs. Matt Yanny-Tillar, I was wondering if you tell us a little bit about your songwriting process. What gives you inspiration and to put those? I don't say put down the notes on paper, but I don't know if you're doing that, if you're learning it by ear.
Well, that's an interesting question. As a songwriter, you can get into people's songwriting practices. I am not a real hardcore, like sit down and force myself to write music kind of guy. I'm very melody driven in the way I write. And to that end, I have to sit down and just start making up things on the guitar and kind of generating like melody lines. If I have a melody, I can find that I can relatively easily start to drop a lyric into place on that. So for me, the process starts by just having the opportunity to sit down, play music, and then go from there. I think we've either heard Yippee-I-A or we're gonna roll out of this segment with Yippee-I-A, and that was a song that I wrote some years back, just based on an experience of taking my older daughters on a family trip out to the Grand Canyon and Bryce Canyon areas, and subsequent to that, kind of jotted down some musical ideas that kind of were percolating in that moment, kind of just being out in the wide open spaces of the American Southwest. And I don't know. So you get experiences and you find a way into melody. I don't know that there's any magic to it. Heimer showed up at a rehearsal a few weeks back and, said, I got this song that just kind of came out of nowhere. So,
well, speaking of traveling around, do you ever think about taking the show on the road? I know you both have regular jobs, and I'm just wondering if the music ever conflicts. And would you actually consider as like I don't want to call you an older guy band because you're a lot younger than me.
We are.
I would assume there's a lot of older guy bands now. In the early days of rock and roll, like in the 50s, there weren't a lot of people playing rock and roll, maybe R&B and, that kind of thing. But I think now there are a whole bunch of you. There's a former Rogers Parker named Bill Page who he moved to Thailand and he's got a band over there and he's, probably in his 60s. It's a phenomenon. It's going to be happening more and more.
It is. In response to your question, I'm not sure. None of us are like keenly driven to like be famous as musicians or serve up the band in that kind of way. Honestly, we tend to find that it's very nurturing for us just as individuals to get together and make music and kind of be in a collaborative, creative process with other human beings in a musical format. We're pretty happy just having rehearsals together. And so the need to go out and, go through the logistics of booking gigs and touring and taking it further afield has not really been our motivation. Not to mention that we're all still working and just coordinating rehearsals can be a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, one of our since pandemic we've been working with for more often with a percussionist named Sergio Diaz Ramos, and he's fantastic. But he's still got he's younger than we are, but he's still got school age kids. So that sort of affects. We sometimes gig without him only because his availability is really tricky. Which is just to underscore Matt's point that making sure we can find time to make music together in any way is a huge thing for us. And so we're lucky, I think, to be in a situation where we don't have to make a living from the music. And I think at the same time, we're able to perform just about as often as we want to, which in practice winds up being maybe 12 to 15 times a year, which is, keeps us busy.
Yeah, and of course, as we just said earlier, the next do the promo again on Saturday the 31st, 7:00 at the Whiskey Girl Tavern, free show. Good tunes, good inter-song banter, I would say. There's always
thank you.
Yeah, it's always a joke or two in there. It's a fun evening. What else have you got? And I want to backtrack a little bit. Resounding Wayves. Where does the name come from?
The name came from the name predates Matt's arrival by a little bit, and it came from it was one of those situations where sometimes you're having a conversation and everybody's so far apart in what they want to call the band that nobody can agree on anything. So I think the original three of us had been kicking around ideas for a long time and not coming up with anything. But the idea of Waves came across in part because it's a little bit inspired by the neighborhood and being close to Lake Michigan and the kind of blue mind idea of watching the water roll in. And I remember we having a conversation about sort of the idea of sound waves and trying to connect the idea of sound waves to just waves. And then I think the resounding element might have come from Jim Manzardo, taking it a little bit beyond the idea, expanding on the idea of sound. One kind of funny ongoing thing we have going on with our fans is that periodically a couple of them, including my own spouse, will come up to us after the gig and say, "That was great, you guys. Would you please change your name?" And then I will say no, because then we'd have to go back and redo all our social media. But when we come up with band merch, I think we're just going to go with the initials. I think a lot of our fans know us as RW for short, and that's a lot of fun. Euan reminded me, we are Resounding Wayves with a Y, WAYVES, and you can find us on Spotify and on a whole lot of other streaming platforms as well.
If you need a mnemonic device, if you're looking for Resounding Wayves, don't forget to ask why. So tuck the Y in there.
Nice.
WAYVES.
I like it.
When you were talking about harmony and 4-part harmony, I'm just wondering, you didn't mention your influences, any of those earlier doo-wop groups and their harmonies. You go that far back in your listening before the 70s?
For me,
I used to go to Alan Freed rock and roll shows in Brooklyn, Paramount, New York.
Yeah, and I have to confess, Michael, earlier this morning I was snooping around on some of your online content and bumped into some of your photo galleries, and you've got some shots of a concert that happened at Preston Bradley Hall in People's Church in 1999.
Oh, yeah. Pete Seeger.
And I was on stage at that event with another band. I was playing with a band called Voices in Chicago at the time. We were there. And that was sort of a nice, connection to see that was something that you've covered or had been interested in. Some of my earliest stuff was just listening to like Arlo Guthrie and Pete Seeger when they were on stage, and kind of getting into that spirit of that they had of sort of keeping like older music alive and kind of repurposing it and using it to tell stories that could still engage crowds, underpinning it, as Pete did, with an element of social justice, and so I still really like listening to that kind of stuff, and I think a lot of the bands that I still get influenced by linked to that. We're on Saturday, we're playing a song by a group from New York, the Mammals, and they've got connections to Pete Seeger's work out in that area, out in the New York area.
One more time, it's going to be at the Whiskey Girl at 63. What is that address?
6318 North Clark.
And it's 7 to 9, no cover. And all of you people listening in who want to come on out, you'll not only hear a good band, but you'll get to meet Euan Hague and Michael James, your co-hosts for this segment of Live.
Oh, we're going now. Okay, we're going. Okay,
I'm going.
guess.
Yeah, you can pick me up.
Fantastic.
All right, everybody else, we're looking forward to having you back next week. We're going to have, once again, a monthly visit from Peter Schulte up in the Northwest. He does a newsletter called Good News for Humankind. And then we may have a report on ICE in Maine, but we are going to have a report from Katie Clark, who runs a Health Commons Health Clinic up in Minneapolis. I think it's connected to Augsburg College, and she'll fill us in on the kind of injuries that have been coming into these clinics with the ICE activity. And with all that said, I want to encourage you all to continue to do good in the world, because the world needs all the good that you do. And if you want to help support this show, our email is the livefromtheheartlandshow@gmail.com. livefromtheheartlandshow@gmail.com. If you have suggestions for guests, you want to come on yourself, you want to give us some dough, we're looking forward to hearing from you. So over and out till next week. All power to the people. Keep doing good in the world. Thanks for tuning in.
She can. Over the mountain.
Thank you for watching the Live from the Heartland show.
You got a dream
New episodes
awaiting.
air every Friday beginning at 9 a.m. Central Time.
It may
Episodes
not
air
come
each following Thursday
easy,
on Can
but
TV,
you know
9
you've
p.m.
got a
in
friend.
Sweet Home Chicago.
I'll be
Channel
by your
21.
side the
We're
entire
streaming
ride.
everywhere
Just
else
let me
at
hear you say
cantv.org.
amen.
Are you doing?
Audio episodes go live on WLUW Saturday 9 a.m. on the left end of your dial at 88.7 FM or streaming everywhere worldwide at WLUW.org.
Are you doing the best you can?
They're available on Apple and Spotify podcasts by looking up Live from the Heartland on either platform, and are also broadcast on Lumpen Radio Friday at 9 a.m. on 105.5 FM and streaming at lumpenradio.com. I'm Michael James, and I'm glad to have been your host. Until next time, remember, do good in the world because the world needs all the good that you do, that I do, that we do together. All power to the people. Over and out.
Come to limb. Are you doing the best you can? Tell me, are you doing? Are you doing the best you can?